can you help us to understand what is it going to be about, the election? Is it going to be about the candidates themselves, or actually is it going to be about how the voters see the two parties, the Republican and the Democrat? Ms. McGowan?
Well, Mrs. Clinton made the mistake the first time in 2008 to make the campaign about herself. And that's one of the main reasons she lost it against President Obama. While President Obama was telling everybody what he was going to do for them, she was talking about herself and being a woman. I think she's going to change that this time.
Well, a woman is saying so from America. What about from an American gentleman? We are also joined right now in Miami by Mr. Ted Hankin, Associate Professor of City University of New York. Mr. Hankin, what do you think? Is it about the parties or is it about the individuals?
Well, you know, politics is personal, and I think people are attracted to personalities, but you know, you can't win an election just on personality, although George W. Bush certainly challenged that idea. I think that you know, Hillary Clinton clearly has learned some lessons, but going forward, we don't know how deeply those lessons have been learned. There is certainly a lot of controversy in the Clinton world, the Clinton, you know, Bill and Hillary Clinton world, and the Republicans are going to seize on that, try to distract the voters. But in her video, her announcing video, she clearly focused on the people and on their issues. It was a very progressive, inclusive message that she sent. And again, it wasn't about her. It was, you know, about 2 minutes of everyone else, and then she came in at the end. So
right.
I think that tone is going to lead differently, and we'll see how it plays.
Well, let's just take a look at this moment, how the American people are looking at Hillary Clinton's popularity. After stepping down as Secretary of State 2 years ago, Hillary had a lifetime high favorability rating of 66%, with less than a third of the respondents holding unfavorable views. 2/3 of Americans approved of her job performance in the Obama administration, but that number has dropped by a considerable margin since then. Now, her supporters number roughly the same as those who don't like her. That is the sum of the numbers we're getting right now. Of course, it's too early to call. Of course, Mr. Yuan, we all know the American elections could be very dramatic eventually. But what do you think is it really about? Is it going to be about the economy? Is it going to be about foreign policy? Or is it about U.S. status in the world? Eventually, where is the campaign going to fall on?
I think Obama wins the election 8 years ago is because of the economy. Because of the 2008 financial crisis, and Americans deeply involved in the Iraqi and Afghanistan war. So the people want to change for the recovery of the economy. But 8 years or 6 years passed, now American economy is recovering. However, American foreign policy is very debating in the States, and most importantly, American international world status in some sense is a little bit decreasing. So today, if I were American, electorate, I think how to maintain American superpower status is the most important topic today.
All right, but let me go back to you, Ms. McGowan. You know, about Cuba, obviously the Obama administration is making an effort. About Iran, it is doing so. Whether that will become a legacy and whether that legacy will carry over to the other candidates of the Democratic Party is a big question mark.
I think definitely it will. There are two topics that are going to dominate the 2016 elections. Again, the economy as usual, but then terrorism within the foreign policy agenda. And that is going to be Cuba and Iran are part of that theme, and it is going to play for and against Mrs. Clinton and whoever is going to be the primary election winner for the Republicans. It's going to be very important who can protect the United States of America, who can improve the situation in the Middle East and Northern Africa. That is going to be extremely important. And in the area of economy, income inequality, it was very clear from Mrs. Clinton's video that she's going to talk a lot about income inequality. However, in her video, in spite of talking about income inequality, she didn't talk about unions, she didn't talk about labor, she didn't show anything about it, but she has time to do that.
Well, well, you can't expect to in a video to include everything, right, Mary Cruz? But on the other hand,
yes.
On the other hand, though, this is important foreign policy to a certain extent, at least for America now, Mr. Hanken. On the one hand, you've got the email problem still going on with her. I think that's still lingering in people's minds. Secondly, you've got this war track record that she has been involved in war in Iraq, for example, whether she was for it and then later against it. And then later as Secretary of State, she also has some record that need to be clarified. So how much will her track record help her or actually harm her, quote unquote?
That's an excellent question. However, I think that most of her track record as a professional, as a politician, as Secretary of State is a net positive for her. I think the baggage that she has is mostly personal and tied to her husband. People really love her husband, but also people really were disgusted by how his second term ended. Also, they tend to hold her to a higher standard. A strong woman can be very inspiring, but strong women, just like African American candidates for office, they have to be very careful about how they present their personality, because people are very judgmental, maybe doubly judgmental, of a woman who's in a leadership position. They apply double standards to them, and especially someone who's liberal in still a right of center nation. And I think that she, is going to try to have to going forward, hit the right messages and the themes, but also project that personality differently than she did before. I think that's why she's starting off in Iowa with these very small meetings, so that she can really come across as smart, but also human and approachable, and that's a kind of a key way to deal with that issue.
Two things, Ms. McGowan. First of all, women, as a women candidate, is it going to be a plus for her or a minus for her? Even though we know women voters these days are extremely important, but that does not necessarily mean that they're going to vote for a woman. And on the other hand, there's also the issue, she is probably the only celebrity, the most visible celebrity, shall we say, among all the possible candidates for both parties. So will that help her? Will that be a minus for her? So these are interesting questions, I guess, in people's mind. Your views here?
Well, definitely being a woman is going to help, because many people think that we should have had, at this point, a woman as President of the United States. That is going to help. But on the other hand, she will have to explain three main things here. What happened in Benghazi, what happened with the contributions to their family funding, and especially the last scandal, what happened with the emails. Let's not forget, not even President Obama was aware of what she was doing in that private server. And he's her boss, after all, he was the boss. And that she will have to explain how it's going to be his presidency. Is it going to be that secretive in the same way she was a Secretary of State? That's the question.
All right, I know you, in your track record, you voted mostly for Republicans, but interesting, your view as well. Mr. Yuan, here I want to have your view. Being famous and being a celebrity, and secondly, being a woman, what will these combinations mean for Ms. Clinton?
I think after 80 years of administrated by African American Obama, and then if we have another 80 years for female American president, it's very real in American history. And another,
particularly when they're coming from the same political party, if that's what you mean.
Another reason, the same party for 12 or even 16 years in the government, in the White House, because this will be produce a new record after Henry Truman in 1980s. It's the first time that the Democrat Party wins the White House for more than 12 years. So according to that, even if I think Hillary Clinton is very most popular, most visible